need support when you go if you need someone, I think between Jamie and I. These are an ugly color this year.
No.
But I like the turquoise last year.
I understand.
I mean, I understand switching colors up, but how do you get through the color wheel? And
They
like,
took my turquoise.
let's go with brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet! I put $2.
Yeah. I don't know.
My drink. There you go.
Administrative passes from the association. Oh, they get you in any Garden State golden tickets. I know, they're pretty sweet. Yeah.
So maybe if one of them.
Go watch my kids play with stuff. And get it free anywhere I go. Yep. Yeah. It's like that. But yeah.
Not you. Got
They
it.
picked black, brown, red,
I'll be Toby.
purple, turquoise last year. Brown. Yeah, it's.
Are we, is it on?
We're ready.
We're good? All right.
Mhm.
It is 7 o'clock. I'll call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. Item 3 is to approve the agenda.
Second.
Bob made the motion and Erica second to approve. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. You want to read that?
Sure. The Ojai School Board strives to provide an environment where students can be happy, healthy, and awesome in their educational pursuits. We believe that each student can graduate ready for college and/or a career. To do so, we will provide a safe, nurturing, and engaging learning environment that meets individual wellness, social, and emotional needs.
Thank you. Item 5 is any district resident who'd like to speak to any item on the agenda. Moving on to discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
Exciting.
Exciting.
All right, so Josh, if you want to open up the FY23 certified annual report, that one there. Okay, so I don't know, the state, the DE kind of changed the website this year in terms of how the reports look when I export them. This is the same type of report as what I produced last year. This is like a spreadsheet turned into PDF. So it was something I wanted to bring to the board. The revenues and the expenditures, that has always been linked into the narrative historically. But historically, the website allows for a pretty easy to read PDF version of it. This year, they removed that option, citing security reasons, which I don't know. I don't know what the security reason is on being able to produce data in a PDF versus an Excel spreadsheet, but there's a security reason. So I had to produce it in an Excel spreadsheet, and it looks kind of hideous, but I'm happy to do it every year going forward. But it's just the format is not as straightforward as this. So I just wanted to explain why that looked kind of weird if you were looking at it in comparison to last year's, and pretty much every year before that, it did look pretty funky, like 32 pages, and just kind of it's a slog getting through that. So this just kind of summarizes basically the nuts and bolts of it. That I was talking about earlier breaks down all of these into granular detail. There's about 30 lines that go into revenues, and there's about 30 lines that go into expenses. And it breaks all of that down by fund for the entire fiscal year 23. But this is just kind of an overall 50,000 foot view look at it. The activity fund, we brought that up last month when we did the equipment transfer. This is reflective of that equipment transfer. This is reflective of 17,000 getting put into that put into that fund. So just a heads up, like that's on our radar. That's probably the reddest of any of the funds we're going to look at. Management, we ended in the black, like we said we would. We spent down save purposefully, like we had different projects we said we were going to tick off through FY23, and we did. So you can see kind of the fund balance there. FY22 was 1.5, almost 1.6, and FY23 is 933. So I mean, we spent that down. PEPL. So PEPL, one note that I wanted to share is that FY24, the year we're currently in, is going to look a lot more like FY22 in terms of our spend. You can see FY22, the spend was like 2.3. FY23, the spend was 609. The reason being the flood and the water main break. All of that has to go through PEPL. All the claims that we pay to the different companies go through PEPL as expenditures, and all the receipts that we get from EMC in terms of reimbursement for the claims have to come into PEPL as revenue. So it's going to look, PEPL's going to kind of blow up in FY24, but it's going to be a lot of cash in, cash out type thing with the flood stuff. I would also point out that in the fund summary, the cash balance summary this month, if you notice PEPL was negative, that's because we wrote some tremendous checks to ServiceMaster and different places associated with the flood, and they're still wrapping up the preliminary check from EMC coming to us to reimburse for that. So when we have that, I can assure you that PEPL's going to look a lot better next month in the cash balances than it looked this month. So just wanted to address that. The next page of this goes through the other funds and then an all-in across all funds. So the only thing I'll mention about the all-in is that is based on the state reporting. The state reporting pulls in one of our other proprietary funds, which is like our scholarship fund. It's where we house the money from the Bob Clark Track Scholarship. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of $17,000 to $20,000. It's not insignificant money, but it's not a fund that I keep on here and keep tabs on for you, because it's the interest in, and if the student that won the scholarship claims the scholarship, it's the scholarship money out to the university. It's a pretty boring account. Nutrition just kind of remains a mystery to me, as you can see just in the comparison to the re-estimate. Like, we came out smelling like a rose, compared to where I thought we were going to be. And honestly, it all boils down to that revenues at the top there. I tried to kind of be somewhere realistic with what we were seeing from what the feds were going to do for reimbursements, and as you can see, blew it out by like $459,000. So that's the reality with nutrition. Preschool, we're still not out of the woods there with that, but we should see some help between the change in the tuition that we're charging, and you can see there, like, we came pretty close to what we were re-estimating we were going to see for expenses, but we actually came in a little lower. And then on the revenue side, still, we came in, pretty strong there, but a lot of that was catch up from FY22. So I don't want to get too ahead of our skis there on how great we did, because there's still some work to do there. And then the construction fund, I just wrote, we need to sell the flip house. That's the bottom line on that. So that and activity are the two red ones, areas of concern. When we look at overall all-in picture, there's a lot of green in that column. Year over year, overall revenues were down. But, I mean, our expenses were down year over year, and our fund balance, I mean, you know, I look at the general fund, compared to the re-estimate, we were up 1.4 million. Compared to 22, we were up 671,000 year over year. So I mean, overall, that's the picture of what the state is going to see when they look at the car. They're going to look at our fund balances, our expenses, and compare it to what we told them we thought was going to happen, based on what we had in February and March of earlier this year. So, I don't, you know, I'd welcome any questions you have at this time, but that's the nuts and bolts of the car.
I got one that's not pertaining to the budget, but the house.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know where it's at, and what is the status with that?
Landscaping and getting it listed, and deciding is it listing with an agent or trying to sell it ourselves. I think is that a fair assessment?
Yep. And then, how much do we try to get out of it? Like, do we try to get out what we have in, or do we just try to get it off the books? The state gives us pretty wide swath when it comes to real estate. Anything that we sell district-wide, property-wise, we have to try to sell at value. But with construction projects, you have pretty wide scope in terms of negotiating with a buyer to sell that. So, yeah, Michael's right though. There's landscaping materials there. Tim's not here today to talk about where they're at. Derek, do you know anything?
I have not heard anything from him about it.
Okay. So
I had called the person and he said that he would call Tim back. That
oh, okay.
I was gonna do the landscaping, and then I haven't heard anything since then.
Okay.
So it's somebody outside is gonna landscape it, and then you can invest it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. You know anybody that wants to buy it?
No, not really.
What's the fair market value? I mean, we talk about, we have a lot of discretion, but obviously we're not gonna sell below market value.
No. I would say fair market value on that house is probably in the 125,000 range. There's no garage. It's a 2-bedroom. Basement could be finished. You know,
There's
it's
an egress window down there.
there's an
right?
egress window. There are 2 in the basement,
Yeah.
and it's plumbed for a bathroom. So somebody that's got ability to put a garage in and maybe do some work in the basement could be a $200,000 house.
It's a neat little house.
Yeah.
$400.
Yeah, I would feel comfortable listing it in the 135, 140 range, I think.
If there's room at your place for my tools and stuff, we can talk.
Sorry.
As far as the car, and this report, it's easy to get lost in the numbers because there's a lot of numbers up there. But you will not find a simpler and cleaner report card of how we did FY22 to FY23 and where we're at historically as a district. I'm going to pull up a new tool that we have. It's going to maybe paint a little bit of a better picture for you. Doesn't have this year's data in it, but it has
Pretty graphics.
yeah, very pretty graphics. All right, so that's a lot right there. Where's the chart I want? Okay. So these two. So we talk about the unspent authorized budget, and the district faced a financial crisis kind of in the 2010, FY 2010 time period. And went through some budget cuts and went through some, I think closing Harlan was in that package potentially. And then FY 27, there was change of administration, and we were kind of, we were definitely headed into a bad place, unhealthy with some decisions that have been made. So we looked to kind of recover, and you can kind of see the trend is back up to where we want it to be. So general fund expenditures continue to grow, which I think is that if you would put that up against inflation costs and those kind of things, you would see pretty predictable trends there. That's a breakdown of where our money comes from, which I think is we talk about silos when we talk about school finance and state aid versus property tax. And since we are a property poor district, state aid has to fill up a lot of that silo, and that's a pretty good illustration of what that looks like for per pupil funding. So the uniform levy is also property tax, so that's property tax relief, and then that's your property tax, and then any additional levy that we put on top. So the green is state aid, and everything else is property tax. They could reorganize that. That would make that a little bit easier to read, but
Yeah.
this is a good trend, showing our property tax rate over time. I think it's fairly flat and predictable, but has historically gone down. Solvency ratio, again, this is when we talk about solvency, that's cash on hand. So unspent authority can be, some districts really put everything they have into unspent authority, which is like the credit card. We look at it, but I think Michael and I have a tendency to look at the cash a little bit more because, I don't know, although you can have all the unspent authority in the world, but if you don't have cash to pay the bills, and we got to come to you guys and say, hey, we need to go borrow money against our authority. You got to go to ask the bank for cash. I don't know. I think that's pretty embarrassing that we didn't handle our cash position well, that we have to go borrow money. And at this point, borrowing cash at 7 or 8% is
Foolish.
Yeah, real foolish. So the solvency is one I think that definitely is our cash position, and you can see again that was where there was a budget cuts and then got healthier, probably too healthy, and then when we were back down here, this will be budget cuts in 2018. We closed Parkside. And then now we're back up into a healthier spot. And when we were in this position, this is kind of where we talked with the board. We talked about 10 to 15% kind of be in that sweet spot of where the board would like to be. That's something we can review, we can talk about. I mean, we're in discussion right now, so if you guys have any thoughts on solvency ratio, I think that's a, 16.3% is our current, that's FY 22. You know what we are this year?
I don't, no. But it was trending upwards, so, yeah.
You get much north of 20%, and, we don't need to be a bank. We don't need to hoard cash, although right now we have our money working for us in savings accounts, earning 5% interest, so that's good.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on any of that? Before I move on.
Just so I'm sure what I would be talking about. The only way we get to our unspent authority is to raise our taxes. I mean, we got the ability
To fund
fully maximize.
to fund it, we would have to raise taxes.
Yes, that is accurate.
That just says we have the ability to raise taxes and generate that money. That's not money that's out there for us to pull in.
That is
We
correct.
would have to go out to the public and raise their taxes to get that money.
Yes.
Yeah, and to touch on what Josh was saying with the unspent budget, the folks that put this fact tool out are ISFIS. They're the same ones that had that cool color laminated sheet that we handed out. They are very pro max the UAB. You know, go after it. Turn all your levers to max funding, which means max tax rate. You know, like that's kind of, they come from more that school, and we come from more the, you know, let's pay the bills here with solvency. Let's get some kind of a realistic read on where we're going to be at for costs, and I don't know. So we meet somewhere kind of in the middle between ISFIS and our philosophy in terms of managing the finances for the district. So
I think is there there's not an enrollment trend on this worksheet, is there?
yeah, budget, enrollment, head count.
Yeah, that's a good one. At least to kind of look at. So the reason that we really wanted to talk about this today too is obviously taking a look at the budget and where we're at, looking at the report card of how we finished the fiscal year of 23. We're going to have our count, our enrollment count here in 2 weeks in October for this year. Trends are, you know, fairly flat. I don't have because we're still bringing in open enrollment numbers. It's hard to put a finger on it. There were first day of school, I was feeling like we maybe could be -10, but you know, we could be +10. So it's kind of hard to say today where we're going to land. Not significant either way. But my point of talking about enrollment is to, when you talk about new money, sorry. So if you look historically, since 2012, we've only had 2 years where we've been negative new money. Now, my reason for bringing that up is not this year, but in FY25 and in FY26, we will graduate our 2 largest classes in the district, and we will replace them likely with classes that are 15 to 20 kids lower, which is the trend would be, unless we have a baby boom or unless we have a huge bunch of move-ins, or O2 goes from 140 kids to 200 kids. We're going to probably, and based on what's happening in Des Moines, it is likely that we're going to have two years back to back of negative money. So, scrolling back over here, we're going to have, we're going to have to make decisions around our largest pool of expenditures, which is staffing and educating those fewer students, and our solvency ratio, and how we kind of get through that bubble over the next 3 to 5 years. We figure it's better to talk about it now. We're 2 years out versus then, hey, we need to cut 5 positions next year because it's on us. So just, we're watching it and we know it's coming. We thought that this fact sheet from ISFIS did a nice job of kind of putting it all out there on one page to say, like, this is a trend. We know what's probably going to happen and what those consequences may be. So just, it may make decisions for us in terms of, we're looking at retirements, who's retiring, we're looking at hiring, people leave, are we going to not replace them through attrition? Do we replace them at full staff and take a hit to our solvency ratio for a year because we know there's a batch behind them with retirements? There's a lot of different pieces of that puzzle, but I think, again, the graphs and the numbers and the fact that we're aware of it should be helpful in getting through that change. So
on today's number per student, how many dollars are we talking about?
If you're talking about 7,200 a kid.
yeah, $500,000, right?
You lose 10.
Yeah.
That's
It is a big number. Yeah, but I think the bigger thing is you do 2 years in a row. You go, you're upside down $400,000 to $500,000 2 years back to back. All of a sudden, that's $1 million over 2 years that you're out.
How many students?
If we go, so it'd be 30 to 40. Yeah. We did plunk this into discussion tonight, just because it is, if you look on the action items, there's a whole bunch of stuff to do. If there's any of those things you want to look at ahead of time, our hope was to kind of put it all together and discuss it now, and then we can roll through those action items pretty quick. Is there anything else you want to touch on those action items?
Well, the transportation report, the cost for transporting students actually went down this year over last year. So this year, I believe it's $584.66. Last year it was $692.23. So the cost there went down a little bit. If I've got last year's numbers in front of me, so if I compare them to the numbers that you see up there on the screen, $392 for line 10. So the net cost is $392 versus $388. Adjusted cost per mile was $605 versus $573. $92,329.05 for adjusted non-route operating costs last year, $102 this year. Adjusted net operating costs $286 this year versus $300,000 last year. So came down a little bit, and basically just the cost to transport the students. I believe. So the bus purchase probably hit the books in 2022, 21 to 22 school year versus 22 to 23. But other than that, that was the talking point on the transportation report, and then the sped report. The deficit did go up from last year in comparison. So last year the sped deficit was 77,000, and this year it's 207.
Sped deficit.
Yeah, that's there. There you go.
So the bigger that one gets. Reports are also nice.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There are.
Well, let me scroll up on that.
If you go back to the narrative, there might be another. There you go. The sped supplement. There you go. Hit that one. That might make it a little bigger. Yeah. Here we go. So. That's the revenue side of it. So it's by the weights. So level 1, 2, and 3 are the left 3 columns, and then the right is the total. And if you're looking at net revenues over or under expenditures, you can see the deficit there on the lower right corner is 207, 326.79. So
that has been into the $750,000 range before.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that graph that you had up kind of showed where the sped deficit has been historically. I mean, we're still. I mean, it's not gonna say it's great that we're at 207, but it's a long ways from where it was. But
Is that pretty common in a district, the way they weight this and that?
Yeah.
They way underpay on that rate column.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you're talking about, so a level 3 student is, those would be all of our students that we're transporting to other facilities. So it's all their transportation, it's real costs when they're there, plus administrative costs, so a single student could touch $100,000 to educate them. Then you have, students internally that we educate that are in that level 3 column. It's a lot of our one-on-one behavior students. So, you know, cost of a one-on-one associate, all in, insurance and everything paid, $50,000 on just that student, plus their educational costs of you know, students in a special ed classroom. There's, you know, highly trained, highly qualified teacher that has 5 or 6 kids. So. Yeah, it gets expensive fast, and the state SBRC board has not adjusted the weighting or added another column of weighting, I think in like 20 some years. So, and they showed no interest in doing so, because their answer is, well, you just turn around and put that onto your taxpayers. So, yeah, that deficit is captured in our cash reserve level every year. All right, that's it.
That's the extent of what I wanted to talk about, so.
Any other questions? All right, we're moving on to consent agenda items.
I will we approve the consent agenda items that presented.
Second.
Bob made the motion and Joe seconded to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. 10 is to approve out-of-state travel for FFHS.
Yeah, it was the FFA got doubled in there. The FFA one was already in was in the consent agenda, but we doubled it up here. But there is a chess one too, so it's okay. So FFA will be going to Indianapolis mid to late October. Annually they go and they get an Airbnb and they take half dozen to a dozen kids. It's a good experience for them. And our new second year chess club will take 4th graders, and Mr. Garnett is requesting to take them to a tournament in Moline, I think October 4th. So I'd recommend approval of out-of-state travel for both those groups.
I'll make the motion to approve the out-of-state travel request for the chess club.
Second.
Erica made the motion and Joe seconded to approve the travel requests as presented. Discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. B is to approve the athletic and activities fundraising for the year.
Mr. Cannon?
Yeah, I mean, largely, I would say these fundraisers are done pretty much every single year. And as you look through a lot of them are related to tournaments or things that clubs or activities are out there doing to fundraise versus just asking, I guess, if that makes sense. Like I said, a lot of youth tournaments and things of that nature. Yeah, I guess I don't know if there's really a whole lot else to explain there other than, yeah, they're kind of all over the place, I guess. If you're looking for pizza and scratch cupcakes and things of that nature, students will find you. Especially on the day that they show up with those forms. Get hit a lot, so.
The secret is central office. We rarely get hit, and we're like sitting ducks.
I just have to say no, like Nancy Reagan taught me, just say no.
Just
Like I wouldn't have a paycheck left if I bought something from all of these, but yeah, I think they're reasonable. Like, and most clubs and programs have a a degree of a vision for what they're fundraising for. It's just not fundraising for fundraising's sake.
Recommend approval.
I move to propose, to approve the activities fundraising as presented.
Second.
Jill made the motion, Erica seconded to approve the fundraising as presented. Discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. C is to approve the car.
Yep, nothing to maybe just jump on here. I think that overall, we were healthier this year than the year before. So thanks to Michael for keeping a close eye on all those things. The red buttons, we definitely have an eye on and a plan. So hopefully activities fund will be healthier next year. We're gonna get that house sold. The construction fund will be healthier next year. And when we're talking next year at this time, all those would be green. So I recommend approving the 23 car.
I make a motion to approve the FY23 car as presented.
Second.
Erica made the motion, Bob seconded to approve the car as presented. Discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. D is to approve the special ed supplement.
Same deal. We just talked about that. So this just shows that we're basically going to be capturing that $200,000 out of general fund expenditures. So recommend approval.
I move to approve the special education supplement.
Second.
Jill.
They're busy tonight.
I know. I'm like, jeez. I kind of like how I'm just saying everybody's last name. It's kind of nice. Jill made the motion, Erica seconded. Any discussion? It's good practice. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. E is to approve the SBRC request.
Yep. So this is just so you can follow everything here. We're requesting SBRC permission to allow us to spend general fund dollars to pay that special ed dollars in the amount of $207,000, $326.79. You do not have to say all that, but we have to do that, and we have to do a roll call vote on this guy. So I'd recommend approval to ask SBRC request to pay for that special ed deficit.
I move to approve the SBRC request for the special ed deficit.
Second.
Bob made the motion, Jill seconded to approve the SBRC request as presented. Discussion. All right, roll call. Erica. Yes. Jill.
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
Candace, yes. Motion passes. F is to approve the transportation report.
Recommend approval.
Move to approve the FY23 transportation report.
Second.
Bob made the motions, Erica seconded to approve the report. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes.
We're getting close.
Approve a request to the SBRC for a modified supplement amount.
Yeah, so they made this available a little earlier than usual, but they put a deadline on it of October 2nd, so figured we'd sneak this one in, get it approved a month early, so. And it's for SBRC to allow us to go after any supplemental amount that they would maybe decide to give us, but right now the application shows 0, so in all likelihood it will be 0. But
So a district that would, and the reason it's good practice to do this. So an LEP would just be if there's a change in enrollment, that we would have a significant change in language. Students that are not proficient in English, and there'd be an influx of transient students that move in, and we have to spend thousands of dollars hiring interpreters, or teachers, those kind of things. You can go ask SBRC special permission. You can go get special dollars from the state to do that. So this allows you to pay for it if it happens. But right now we don't have any, based off of our current enrollment, we don't have any foreseen needs for that. But it's good practice to prove it and get permission in case we need to. So recommend approval.
I moved a request to the SBRC for a modified supplemental amount of $0 due to excess costs of providing an LEP program in the prior year.
Second.
Jill made the motion, Erica seconded to approve the amount as presented. Discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. H is to approve the 5-year sublease to the GO. What's that gonna say?
Greater Olin Area Charitable Foundation. So worked with Viper Lanes Bowling Alley to, one, help them get up and running. We've had kind of, are we going to have a bowling team, not have a bowling team? Are we going to share with independents? Do we have our own bowling team? And so earlier this summer, I met with Dean and Peggy down at Viper Lanes and kind of got the full picture of what their plans were. There was kind of a lot of unknowns with flooding. Weird. We could swap a lot of stories about flooding, so that was good. But between myself and OCAD and one of their financiers, banker, we met several times to kind of help get them a plan to get reopened, and they're planning on opening November 1st. So. They leveraged some different financing options through the city and through OCAD helped them, and then through the bank. And so it was a chance for us to renew our lease anyway and negotiated a 5-year lease for $25,000 or $5,000 a year to help get them to going. There was some concern about the risk if they sell or if they don't make it and they close down again, that the district's out some of those funds. And so we went to a local foundation and the foundation agreed to pay or to prepay the lease and then sublease to us. So they take the risk off of us and we just become a traditional leasee of that space. So Greater Olin Area Charitable Foundation has secured the lease, and now we would just be the subtenant of the Greater Olin Area Charitable Foundation for 5 years. So a little complicated, but it definitely helps bowling alley, gets our bowling team back, I think, which is exciting. And they were putting the roof on today down there. Everything's tore out. I think they got electrical in there. I don't know. I think they might be open before November 1st, the way that Dean's getting after it. So, anyway, take any questions or anything, but we recommend approval.
Move to approve the 5-year sublease with the Greater Olin Area Charitable Foundation for utilization of Viper Lanes.
Second.
Bob made the motion, Erica seconded to approve the sublease as presented. Discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Reports. Michael.
Okay, my report's pretty short. The reports that we talked about today were pretty much the focus of the last month. Prepping for the audit that takes place here in a couple weeks, early October. The auditor will be out on site, so that'll be nice. We're shifting to certified enrollment count, meeting with building secretaries and admin the next 3 days to kind of nail down names and, hey, where are they? And are they enrolled here? Or, verify the butts and seats for the count. Then fall bed staff. report. That's the staff count we use for negotiations in the spring. So that'll be coming up, and I'll be heading to Altoona later this month for Fall IASBO conference. So with some other SBOs. That's it. Thank you.
It's nice to see Michael climb out of his hole after the car is certified.
Any questions? All right, Mr. Green.
It's been a, knock on wood, a very quiet start of the school year. We had staff PD on the Monday or the Tuesday after Labor Day. We had Toby in from Marzano. It's the first time in 5 or 6 years we've had an external partner come in and help lead professional development for us. It was a really good day, really good day. Was excited about the outcomes. Staff seems to be genuinely excited about the work that we're working on. But more importantly, I got to travel with the third graders to Fayette County Field Day last week. And got to head up to Elgin and learn about bees, and the fish hatchery from Decorah was there. Got to eat lunch. They released a couple pheasants at lunchtime.
The only reason one of our third graders went on the field trip, she was hysterically sobbing before school. And I told her Mr. Ain, a local celebrity, was going to be on the trip with them. And she's like, really? It's like, yeah, you should definitely go and try and get a selfie with him. And I think she did. So,
I didn't even know that.
save it.
Yep. And then today, I got to go to West Branch for the annual trip down to see the Herbert Hoover Historic, or the Presidential Library and Museum. So as a former history teacher and government teacher, this is like, I don't know, this is like gold for me. So yeah, the Mecca of Iowa, it was awesome. Last year I was like an official chaperone, so I had to be with the kids. This year I was a bus driver, and so like they just let me go wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted. So I got like my own private tour. Got to go in some spaces that the kids don't really go in, so it was pretty sweet. But it was a good day. The conservation day is awesome. There are, I don't know, 15 local farmers up there that help drive tractors and hay rides, and then all the conservation folks that put it on. They do 3 days in a row, and it's a pretty cool day. A lot of effort goes into that for all the local schools. And then the Northeast Iowa Charitable Foundation funds the trip down to the Hoover Museum every year, so it's no cost to us. They pay for our tickets in, they pay for transportation. Tammy Stacy organizes it every year, so she takes care of all the legwork on that and makes the whole thing really easy. So perfect weather for it today too. So anyway, something fun. That's it.
Mr. Finn.
Well, homecoming week, so the craziness is full on. Couple quick shout outs, one to Liz Stang. She does a lot of, if you looked at the fundraising sheet closely, you would have seen like 20 things for prom. Well, one of the things that she does for prom, to fundraise for prom, is put parents and students in concession stands for us, which is huge, because I don't like, without that, we would be really struggling to find people to show up and work at our concession stands and things like that. So very appreciative of her. It's kind of 2 birds with 1 stone. And then just the activity workers, like I have gotten a newfound appreciation for the number of people that do multiple things for us is really high. Like you start looking around a little closely and you see the same people showing up all over the place, and that's awesome. And that like we've got some people that are really dedicated to making sure that our activities can occur because there's people there to work. So there's a handful of them, and I'm just very thankful that I can call. You know, there's a handful of people I call and be like, hey, I need somebody tonight, and they're right there. So that's cool. Homecoming week, so lots of fun stuff going on. Plenty of activities throughout the week, capped with the dance on Friday night. I'm looking for some chaperones if anybody's interested. No? Okay, me either. But so yeah, the homecoming dance, and then last night we had the volleyball showdown, which was super fun. Some years we struggle to get each grade to have 2 teams. There's 2 teams for each grade, 2 staff teams. So the gym was packed last night, and lots of smack talking. It was fun. So yeah, that went well. Healthy. Hoping our football team is a little healthier this week. We've been nursing some injuries here for the last few weeks and hoping to bounce back. We've got some students that have come off of an eligibility this week as well. So we'll be as full strength as we have been in some time. So hopefully that translates into a big win. We also kind of, I'm gonna spell positive somehow, thought of a couple different ways to get some of the older kids to interact with middle school and elementary school students this week, with teams greeting students at the elementary as they show up and going up and having lunch with the middle schoolers, things like that to hopefully form some of those good relationships. And then we've started, credit to Ms. Jacobs and some of our fall coaches about getting student athletes down there on Fridays to greet students as they're getting out of the car. So right there we've got some volleyball girls there hanging out and saying hi as kids get to school. And then we had our home cross country meet last month and Count Sauser got first, boys team got 5th, and the girls struggled a little bit but have rebounded nicely through the season with having better times since that meet. So yeah, fall's full underway here, and less than a month we're talking postseason already. So cooking right along.
Any questions? Thank you. Mrs. Jacobs.
All right, so for my report this month, focusing on, let me just go through to September. On the happy side of things, our attendance, preschool won at Little Husky for the month of August at 99%. I realize it's a little bit cheating because they don't go to school on Wednesdays, but still over 99% for those guys. And over at Wings Park, 3rd grade is leading the way with 97.5%. So Barb Winter's doing a great job tracking that, where students can see it and walk by it every day. Really encouraging them to be a part of our Everybody Everyday mantra this year. Under the Healthy Performance Rehab, donated some new recess stuff for us this school year. There we go. And it's color coded, so each grade has a color. So 2nd grade knows that they take out all the yellow equipment and things like that. It's pretty dismal to start the school year. We had like 2 very warm basketballs that we were playing kickball with, and just not fun at all. It's pretty disappointing when I went on the roof this summer and couldn't even find any balls up there. So we're very happy to have a lot of new playground stuff for kids to play with outside. And then on the awesome side, we're really digging into our early literacy initiative. So if you know anybody, PK through 1st grade, we have a goal of reading 1 million minutes, and then you're also gonna see not only teachers and people who are part of that team, but we're also hoping to get some community members and maybe like some student athletes out of the library doing some events on the 1st Monday of every month to really encourage our families to build that relationship with our library here in town and just get our kids ready more. So yeah.
Any questions?
Pick up and drop off going pretty smooth.
Yeah, every single day we are out of the cafeteria for pickup in the afternoon by 3:15, so 15 minutes. And pickup has gotten a lot better with the process of having kids get out between the cones. We still have maybe like 1 or 2 families that don't quite get it yet, but overall everybody's really getting it, and having that like drop-off zone really has helped. Kids just get out, they come down the line, and it just moves people out of there so much faster. It really makes the morning look like how we were doing it in the afternoon.
Been a whirlwind of a month. Right now we're sitting at approximately 140 students pre-K through 12. We will be taking on another kindergartner at the beginning of October. Kids are getting ready for MAPS testing over the next couple days with me. Our teachers focus this year on immediate contacts. If a student missed a login day, teachers called immediately. They didn't wait till the end of the week. They didn't wait for their 2-week contact. They called immediately. And because of that, 90% of kids are at or advanced where they're supposed to be in their classes right now, which is huge because for some of them it's trying to recover some credits that they've lost in the past, and they're gonna have that opportunity to do that. Odyssey is working at the pantry on Fridays and going over to the high school for PE. So we are able to get out a little bit more this year. I have said that I am blessed to have the staff that I have at O2. And sometimes people don't truthfully understand how much we benefit a family. And I just want to share a brief part of an email that a family sent to us. It said, I'm glad Oldline provides this opportunity to students from other districts. It's clear seeing students succeed is at the heart of each staff member I've communicated with. I'm so happy we found a school environment that is as productive and positive as Oldline Online has proven to be. His, referring to her son's attitude at home, has improved. He's still very social with peers and continues to take part in other healthy activities like working out. A student's experience in school truly has a trickle-down effect on the rest of their world. I'm so glad we made the decision to transfer to this program and look forward to seeing his continued success. So just on part of the O2 team, thank you for the faith that you guys have had in O2, because it really does make a big impact in the lives of many, many of our students, and that opportunity to work towards a diploma with whatever situation is facing them.
Any questions? Thank you. Mr. Hurley.
Okay, kind of like Ms. Adams said, been a busy opening month of school, but it's been a good month. Genuinely, staff and students happy to be at school. We started this past week on our early out days with grade level PLCs. So the staff in those groups started meeting about individual students that might be initially, as we start rolling into the year, struggling either academically or behaviorally, just so we can get proper supports and interventions in place for those students. So they met as groups on Wednesday, and then the following day, our Tier 2, Tier 3 intervention committee goes through those agendas that those PLCs have kind of talked about what students might need some help, and we kind of give some guidance on that to those specific groups as well, just so it's kind of a team effort how we can help these individual students. Middle school has 25-minute MTSS time, which is our EDGE time. Couple of things that are happening there: silent sustained reading, but really pushing the IXL computer-based programming this year, which is another really good, like I said, computer-based math and ELA programming. It's adaptive, so that each individual student, it will kind of go to their level and help them out. And there are diagnostics that the teachers can use that'll help give them pretty much real-time data and helps them determine some educational programming moving forward for those students. So that's been a really good implementation during MTSS time. We'll be implementing labs for math and ELA as well, starting here in October. Students will be referred to these as just kind of a Tier 2 intervention, I would term it, for students that, number one, based on their faster math tests, might show that they need some additional academic guidance in those subjects. And then any 8th grade student that did not pass summer school this year will also be referred into those classes. So again, just another intervention or student support system that we're implementing for our students there. And then as far as PBIS, or positive behavior interventions and supports, we had meetings at the beginning of the year, grade level meetings, where we talked about expectations, talked about celebrations that can happen if students meet those expectations and whatnot. And then we also had rotations throughout the building, just talking about different commons areas like bus, restrooms, auditorium, cafeteria, things of that nature, what the expectations are. So that was another good thing to kind of kick off the year with students as well. And then we have what are called Husky Bucks. just part of our PBIS programming. So students that are seen to be displaying positive behaviors, they can earn those Husky Bucks, and we have a Husky store where they can redeem those for some rewards. Fall assessments happen at a district level, but middle school did ours last Thursday and Friday. That's FAST for 5th and 6th grade, and math for 7th and 8th grade, and those are reading and math tests. Give us a good baseline for this year, kind of see what students have gone up since last year or possibly regressed. Gives us some very streamlined information as far as what types of things students, groups of students or individual students might be struggling with, so that kind of helps with our academic programming moving forward. We'll do those makeups then this week, students that were gone on those days. And then, like Mr. Kennan said, at the high school level, we've got fall activities kicked off and rock and roll at the middle school level as well. So I just talked to Miss Stacy a little bit. She kind of gave me some background on some of the cool things that are happening with Husky Adventures at the middle school level right now, and she's the coordinator for the entire district. So there are things happening through that program at the whole K through 12 level there. So really cool programming that our students have available to them. Cross country, Mr. Gerhardt and Liz Esser talked about, they've got 6th, 7th graders and 9th, 8th graders. They're working hard and improving, and you really put a plug in for it to be push the sport with the kids, because it's unique in the fact that there's no bench, everyone gets the opportunity, and it doesn't take any prior experience to join. So that's kind of his sales pitch to students that might be interested in cross country. Volleyball, Sammy Keegan and Kat Potter are coaching that's activity. Got good numbers. I believe it was 17 for 7th grade, and 8th grade has 7th grade has 15, and 8th grade has 17. So good numbers there. They're real happy with the work ethic of the students so far. And then football as well. Mr. Ehlers, Mr. Bunn, Mr. Rex, and Mr. Moeller, or Molis, I should say, are coaching or advising football. And again, positive attitude of the students so far. And they actually have another game this week on Thursday, their first home game, so let me excite them. Let them kind of perform out in front of the home crowd. So yeah, busy month, but a lot of student involvement and student engagement, and like I said, staff are working hard, so it's been a good start.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Report or upcoming events, I guess our next school board meeting. That's
right.
it. That's all we got. All right.
We jumped over discussion if you want to jump back to 12.
Oh, did I jump? I did.
It's okay. It was, we put the
Yeah,
just
you messed
reports.
me up. I thought we were doing it after. I
We
thought it
got
was
good
on here.
feedback from having them at the end of the meeting last
Yeah,
time,
I
so we
did.
did it again. But
Okay,
that's
sorry,
that's out of
discussion.
order. It's okay.
I'm not a change person.
Jeez.
I am.
Dude, for 16 years, I think you know how it runs.
Hey, it's 21 today. This is my 21 September. Okay, anyway, that's my discussion.
25.
Huh? Yeah. Nobody's gonna say that. No discussion. See, that's why I skipped it. All right, well then I need somebody to read 15 for me, please. Yeah, that motion to go into
Okay,
closed
motion to
session.
go into closed session to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation, and that individual is thus in closed session.
Eric made the motion and Bob seconded it. Let's see. Roll call.